You know, it's probably one of the most famous songs on the entire planet. That melody, it's so simple, so cheerful, it's basically the official soundtrack to the holiday season. We all know it, right? We've all sung it a million times. But what if I told you this story we think we know is completely wrong? Let's get into it.
You can just hear the bells, can't you? Those words are practically baked into our collective DNA. It's just, the pure, simple joy of a winter's day.
And that simple question, right there, is the key that unlocks this whole hidden history. Because the real story of Jingle Bells isn't just surprising, it's actually a little bit racy, and believe it or not, deeply controversial.
Okay, so let's start with the most basic thing we all assume, that this is a Christmas carol. Well, it turns out that's probably not the case at all.
That's right. Thanksgiving. If you really listen to the lyrics, think about it. There's no mention of Christmas or Santa or reindeer or presents. Nothing. It was just a song about having fun on a sleigh ride. And its first connection to any holiday was supposedly Thanksgiving, when it was performed at a Sunday school service just because the kids loved singing it so much.
But here's where it gets really interesting. That sweet, family-friendly tune we all sing today, it's been, let's just say it's been edited. The original was a little more adventurous.
First off, it wasn't even called Jingle Bells. Nope, it was published way back in 1857 as the One-Horse Open Sleigh. They only changed the name 2 years later. And the lyrics, oh yeah, they told a very different story.
So let's break this down. The original song was about a guy taking a girl, Miss Fanny Bright, for a joyride in a fast sleigh, with no chaperone. They crash, and then he ends the song by telling his buddies to take the girls tonight. Now, for the 1850s, that was pretty risque stuff. It's no wonder those verses just kind of disappeared over the years.
Okay, so we have a slightly racy Thanksgiving song. But this is where the story takes its most complicated and, frankly, contested turn. The question of where this song was first performed in public is at the center of a huge historical debate.
So, according to some pretty deep research by a Boston University professor named Keena Hamill, the very first documented public performance was at a place called Ordway Hall in Boston, and it was performed by a white man, Johnny Pell, in blackface as part of a minstrel show.
And you gotta understand, in that context, the song wasn't just simple entertainment. Hamill's research argues that it was a performance designed to mock black people. See, minstrel shows often had these racist caricatures, and showing a song about slaying, which was seen as a white, upper-class northern thing, was a way to portray black people as comically out of place, all for the amusement of a white audience.
Now, while that research is peer-reviewed and taken very seriously, it is not the only story out there. Not even close. The song's history is fiercely defended by a lot of people who point to a totally different origin.
See, the other side of the argument, like this one here, says, no way. They argue that the song was first written for that Thanksgiving Sunday school class. They believe that performance came first, and that if the song was seen as racy or had these minstrel roots, there's no way it would have ever been allowed in a church. It just goes to show you how murky this whole origin story really is.
And what about the guy who actually wrote the song, James Lord Pierpont? Well, it turns out he was every bit as complicated and full of contradictions as the song he created.
I mean, just look at this guy's life. He was a northerner who abandoned his kids in Boston to move to the South. Then, during the Civil War, he actually joins the Confederate Army and even writes songs for their cause. And yet some other accounts claim he was a firm abolitionist. Everything about him is debated. The only thing that's really certain, he died poor with absolutely no idea that his little slaying song would one day become a global phenomenon.
So how in the world did a controversial, racy Thanksgiving song become one of the most beloved Christmas classics on Earth and even beyond? Well, its journey over the next 100 years is just as wild as its origins.
It was kind of a slow burn at first. By the 1870s, it started popping up in Christmas songbooks. But the real game changer, the moment it exploded into what we know today, was in 1943. Bing Crosby and the Andrews Sisters recorded it, and it became a massive, million-selling hit. From that moment on, its place as a Christmas classic was sealed. And that led to its most unbelievable moment yet.
No, I'm not kidding. In December of 1965, the astronauts on the Gemini 6 mission decided to play a little prank. On mission control, they radioed down saying they saw a UFO before they started playing Jingle Bells on a harmonica and some sleigh bells they'd smuggled on board. Just think about that. A song with these messy, complicated, earthbound origins became the very first piece of music ever played in outer space.
So, what are we left with? A song that started as a flirty tune for Thanksgiving, may have debuted in a racist minstrel show, was written by a Confederate soldier, and ended up being broadcast from orbit. It's a fascinating story of how our culture can scrub, adapt, and totally reclaim a piece of art. So the next time you hear those bells jingle, what are you going to be thinking about?